Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. We are blessed to continue with our study of the Book of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. Now we are at Surah Taubah. We'll continue with Surah Taubah. Before that, we will make our intentions for seeking knowledge and teaching. I intend to seek knowledge and to teach, to benefit myself and to benefit others, to remind myself and to remind others, to profit myself and to profit others, to urge adherence to the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to invite to guidance and to guide to that which is good, seeking the face of Allah, His pleasure, His close and His reward, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Continue on with the Fatiha. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم نور بالقرآن بصري واشرح به صدري وأطلق به لساني واستعمل به بدني وقوي به جناني وأسرع به فهمي بحولك وقوتك فإنه لا حول ولا قوة إلا بك يا أرحم الراحمين والصلاة على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين بفضل سبحانك ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين آمين آمين يا رب العالمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي الحمد لله. We read verses بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. We read verses 77 to 83 in the last lesson. Let's recap. Those who broke their promises, lied, and were stingy had hypocrisy embedded in their hearts till the day they meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm going to put that a capital letter. Meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't seem to know that Allah knows their hidden thoughts and their secret counsels, and that Allah is the knower of the unseen as well. Allah questioned, don't they know that Allah knows their hidden thoughts? Right? Those who taunt and scoff the faithful, who give alms freely, and those who work to give alms, Allah will scoff them. So these are the hypocrites, right? They lie, they break their promises, they lie, they were stingy, right? And they don't seem to realize that Allah knows what's hidden, and they make fun of the believers who give for in the path of Allah. They shall have a painful chastisement, punishment. Even if Rasulullah asks forgiveness for them or not, Allah will not forgive them. Allah will not forgive them. So Allah is saying that there's no way they will be forgiven because they are hypocrites and they have not repented. Allah will not forgive them. This is because they disbelieve in Allah and His Messenger, and Allah does not guide the transgressing people. So they have transgressed His bounds. They went against the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after they have attested to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are the hypocrites. Hypocrites means they actually say the shahada, admitting or acknowledging that they are believers in Allah and Rasulullah, but along the way, certain traits of them are quite obvious that they are not true Muslims. Those who were left behind were glad that they did not follow the Prophet ﷺ, as they hated striving in the path of Allah with their wealth and themselves. So that is the reality of the hypocrites. They don't want to go to war because, or to go to any expedition that was led by Rasulullah ﷺ, because they don't want to, they hate it, and they have to spend their money, and also to spend themselves means that they got to strive and they got to fight. They told others not to go out. They told others not to go out in the sun. So instead, not only they didn't want to go, they discouraged people from going out and fight in the hot sun. It's a desert, and this was during the summer season. Rasulullah SAW was to say that the fire of hell is hotter if they understood. So since they are saying to the people, don't go out there because it's so hot, don't follow Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah sallallahu is telling them that fire of hell is hotter. Therefore, they shall laugh little and weep much for what they earn. So eventually, this is what will happen to them, right? Because they are not earning what is good for them. If Allah brings Rasulullah back to a party of them, then they ask his permission to go for jihad. He is to tell them that they cannot come along to fight with the enemy. They have chosen to sit in the first time, thus they will sit with those who remain behind. So Rasulullah was not allowed to admit them into the ranks of those who go for jihad because they are hypocrites in the first place. And maybe later on, they might feel some shame, or they might worry that people might discover that they're not true Muslims, and they might want to join. Allah knows best. Allah is telling Rasulullah not to allow them to join because they stayed behind. Okay, let's continue. Wala tusalli, and don't pray. Wala, and don't pray, because it's tusalli, it's an instruction here. Fi'il jazm here, fi'il amr, right? Amr, wala tusalli ala ahadim minhum, ala on ahad, one, right? Minhum, of them, one of them, on one of them, any one of them. Mata, who died, maut is death, right? Abadan, ever. Wala taqum, again an instruction, and don't stand. Qiyam is to stand. Wala taqum ala qabrihi, by his grave. Ala, by, qabr is kubur, right? As grave, he is his grave. Innahum, surely they, kafaru, they disbelieved, billahi, in Allah, wa rasulihi, and his rasul. Wala tusalli ala ahadim minhum mata abadan wa la taqum ala qabrihi innahum kafaru billahi wa rasulihi wa matu, and they died, they, waw alif past tense, wahum, while they, fasiqun, plural here, waw nun rafa. Fasiq means defiant, disobeying the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And never pray for one of them who died, nor stand by his grave. Lo, they disbelieve in Allah and his messenger, and they died while they were evildoers. And they find one's evildoers doing things against the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fasiq. All right, so the instruction came, another instruction against the people of the hypocrites. The previous one was that they are not supposed to be allowed to fight with the Muslims because they chose to stay behind. So another one is, do not pray on any one of them who are dead, ever. Ever pray on any one of them who died. The way of the Prophet's life, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was that he used to attend the funeral and burial ceremonies of Muslims' deaths. Right? So whenever anyone died, Rasulullah would be there to attend. He prayed for them and established funeral prayer over their corpse. But Allah has prohibited his messenger to attend in the ceremonies of the dead bodies of the hypocrites. Now, some of the hypocrites, Rasulullah were told who they were, others didn't know. Some were quite obvious that they were hypocrites, and Rasulullah was not allowed to pray over them. Al-Bukhari recorded that Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu said, when Abdullah ibn Ubay died, his son Abdullah bin Abdullah came to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and asked him to give him his shirt to shroud his father in. And Rasulullah sallallahu did that. Rasulullah sallallahu, now, of course, everyone knew that Abdullah ibn Ubay was a hypocrite, was very obviously a hypocrite, and yet Rasulullah sallallahu acceded to the request of the son of Abdullah bin Ubay. The son of Abdullah bin Ubay, Abdullah bin Abdullah, right, was a true Muslim. So he was, of course, as his father passed away, he would like to hope some blessings from his father, get the shirt of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He also asked the Prophet ﷺ offer his father's funeral prayer, and Rasulullah ﷺ stood up to offer the funeral prayer. Umar radiallahu anhu took hold of the Prophet's robe and said, Ya Rasulullah, are you going to offer his funeral prayer even though your Rabb has forbidden you to do so? Rasulullah ﷺ said, Innama khayyarani lahu faqala. Innama khayyarani lillahu faqala. I have been given the choice for Allah says. Istaghfir lahum aw la tastaghfir lahum in tastaghfir lahum sab'ina marratan falan yaghfir Allahu lahum. We have gone through this verse before, right? Istaghfir lahum, if seek forgiveness for them or not seek forgiveness for them, right? If you seek forgiveness for them 70 times, then will never ever Allah forgive them. So it doesn't make any difference where Allah is concerned, because they are already doomed. Right, we have that. Whether you ask forgiveness for them or do not ask for forgiveness for them, even though you ask for forgiveness 70 times, Allah will not forgive them. Verily, I will ask for forgiveness for him more than 70 times. Umar said, he is a hypocrite. So Allah's messenger offered the funeral prayer, and that Allah revealed this verse. وَلَا تُصَلِّ عَلَىٰ أَحَدٍ مِّنْهُمْ مَاتَ أَبَدًا وَلَا تَقُمْ عَلَىٰ قَبْرِهِ. Right? Do not pray on any one of them when they did any did one of them abadan ever, and do not send on their graves. Right? Umar bin Al-Khattab narrated a similar narration. In this narration, Umar said, the Prophet ﷺ offered his funeral prayer, walked with the funeral procession, and stood on his grave until he was buried. I was amazed at my daring to talk like this to Rasulullah ﷺ, while Allah and his messenger have better knowledge. So there was the history behind, the story behind this verse, right, in which Rasulullah ﷺ was not allowed to pray on the hypocrites. But Allah soon afterwards, these two ayahs were removed. So this is a version from Umar al-Khattab that it was before the revelation of this verse, in which Allah forbid Rasulullah ﷺ from praying on the hypocrites. But Rasulullah ﷺ, as was mentioned in this verse, right, he saw the other verse, right, because Allah, he said to Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu that Allah has given him a choice whether to pray or not to pray on the hypocrites. Anyway, he says whatever the case is, even if I ask for forgiveness 70 times, it will not be accepted. I mean, 70 means lots of times. وَلَا تَقُمْ عَلَىٰ قَبْرِهِ, and do not stand on their graves. This is to seek forgiveness for the dead. Ever since the revelation came, Rasulullah never offered the funeral prayer for any hypocrite or stood on his grave until Allah, the Exalted and Most High, brought death to him. So from then on, all right, so we can see this is Tabuk time. That the people would notice that Rasulullah did not pray for the dead, because the dead is not a true Muslim. He is a hypocrite. He hasn't even stood in the grave and asked for forgiveness for them, because he was instructed not to do so. Before this, there was no instruction. Allah did mention that even if you ask for forgiveness or do not ask for forgiveness, Allah will not forgive you. So Al-Tirmidhi collected this hadith in his tafsir section of his Sunan and said Hasan Sahih. Al-Bukhari also recorded. Thus, the dead body of a hypocrite is also despised, and Muslims ought not to attend their funerals nor stand by their graves. Establishing funeral prayer and visitation of tomb is a sign of a reverence and esteem to the body of a Muslim believer. And since a hypocrite deserves no reverence, right, so they should not. Innahum kafaru billahi wa rasulah. The reality is, surely they disbelieved in Allah and Rasul. So there's a reality of these hypocrites, right? They claim to believe in Allah by saying the Shahada, but in actual fact, Allah is telling us that they do not believe in Allah and His Rasul. This is their reality. They don't believe in Allah and His Rasul's messenger. وَمَاتُوا وَهُمْ فَاسِقُونَ, and they died while they were fasting. So Allah is telling us they were people who disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they died as fasiq, continuously in a state of disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they died while they of those who rebel against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is a very strong statement to say that is the state they are in, right? Because this is Islam and this is Islam. They died while rebelling. Right? So soon after Rasulullah came back from Tabuk, the chief hypocrite and the key person behind almost all of the anti-Islamic intrigues, Abdullah ibn Ubay, died. At the request of his son, a sincere Muslim, Rasulullah graciously gave his own clothes for the chief hypocrite's burial. He even acceded to his son's request to pray the funeral prayer upon him, but was stopped from doing so by Allah through this verse. So here, what we see is that two different stories, right? That was related here. One, the previous story was related by Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, who said that Rasulullah did pray on the hypocrites, although Sayyidina Umar did object against that. But Rasulullah went on to pray and also to follow the funeral and to even stand by the grave. Right? But here, he was going to pray for the hypocrite, but Allah stopped him. So the verse came just before he prayed, according to this narration. So there are differences in narration, right? Wallahu alam bisawab. We're aware of it and we do not fight over them because we are not aware. We don't really know the reality. We leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but this ruling came down to stop Rasulullah from praying on the hypocrites. And so for us, on the basis of these teachings, is that the leadership of the Muslim Ummah should refrain from performing funeral prayers for the persons who are well known for their defiantly disobedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah did mention he was a fasiq. A fasiq is one who disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right, some people might take it and consider disobedient people and doesn't want to pray on them, especially some actually don't want to pray, won't pray on the body of people who commit suicide, because to commit suicide is a sense is a sign of not having full trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But then again, we don't know the realities of people. So nowadays people would continue praying as long as they are Muslims, right? Even if they had killed themselves, suicide, we leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to decide the fate. For us, we will still continue to pray for them. We don't see them as a hypocrite in that sense. But let's recite the verse about the hypocrites. فرح المخلفون بمقعدهم خلاف رسول الله وكرهوا أن يجاهدوا مع أموالهم وأنفسهم في سبيل الله وقالوا لا تنفروا في الحر قل نار جهنم أشد حرا لو كانوا يفقهون فليضحكوا قليلا وليبكوا كثيرا جزاء بما كانوا يكسبون فإن رجعك الله إلى طائفة منهم فاستأذنوك للخروج فقل لن تخرجوا معي أبدا وإن تقاتلوا معي عدوا إنكم رضيتم بالقعود أول مرة فاقعدوا مع الخالفين ولا تصلي على أحد منهم مات أبدا ولا تقم على قبره إنهم كفروا بالله ورسوله وَمَاتُوا وَهُمْ فَاسِقُونَ. All right, continue on the next set of verses. So that was a set of verses describing the hypocrites. And eventually what happened to them was that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was instructed not to pray on the dead hypocrites, and nor stand by their graves. وَلَا تُعْجِبْكَ وَلَا تُعْجِبْكَ. The word is ajaib. Ajaib is amaze, right? Something that is something looks magical kind of thing, something that is, yeah, وَلَا تُعْجِبْكَ. This is instruction. Don't amaze you. Ka is you. Amwaluhum, their wealth. Amwal, plural of mal, amwal, their wealth. Wa awladuhum, and their children. Inna is only that, ma is that. Inna is, can be surely that. Wished Allah. Innama, surely that. I think inna is surely that. Surely that. Ma can be that, ma can be what. Surely that. Yuridu is fi'il mudari and it is in its rafa state. Allah is the one who wishes Allah. Past tense, present tense, not past tense. Because it is fi'il mudari. Wishes Allah. Yuridullahu, and that yu'adhibahum. Okay, yu'adhiba, you can see it's mudari and it is nasab with a fatha there because of the an is huruf nasab. Ay yu'adhibahum, that he punishes them. Ya is a he, biha, by them, fid dunya, in the world. So this them here refers to the wealth and the children. And he punishes them by them in the world, fid dunya, in the world. ولا تعجبك أموالهم وأولادهم إنما يريد الله أن يعذبهم بها في الدنيا وتزهق. Zahaqa is to pass away. Watazhaqa, the ta referring to the soul. The soul is a female, and their souls. Anfusuhum, anfusu is female there. Anfusuhum, their souls pass away. You can see anfusu also has a rafa there. So this is referring to the word ta here, right? Referring to the anfus, who is considered as a singular female entity. Watazhaqa, of course, this singular because at the beginning of the sentence. Watazhaqa anfusuhum wa hum kafirun, while they disbelievers. They are disbelievers. All right, so here we have them as disbelievers, and let not their property and their children excite your admiration. Excite your admiration. Allah only wishes to chastise them with these in this world, and that their souls will depart while they are disbelievers. All right. So Allah reminds us that they will be having lots of money. Some of them, not all of them, have lots of money, lots of wealth, houses. Wealth comes in the form of houses, animals, camels, and things like that. Wala awladum, and they have lots of children. So during the olden days, having lots of children is a sign of prosperity, sign of strength and power. So Allah says, don't be amazed by their wealth nor by their children. This verse reminds the Muslims once again, as was in verse 55, not to be impressed with the prosperity and power the hypocrites seem to enjoy. It seems that exactly the same verse was in this surah, verse 55, reminding the people, Muslims, always reminding them not to be amazed by the wealth and the children that they have. Such reminders are needed repeatedly because many people continue to wish to bring such resourceful and influential people into the fold of the Islamic movement. Yeah, it's true. They believe that these rich and powerful people would have a greater influence. Many prophets have been taunted or have been made fun of because their followers are usually the weaker people, right? So that shows that the rich and powerful are not interested to follow them because some of them would claim this is because it's not the truth. But the reality is that the rich and powerful are not able to accept the message of the prophets of Allah because the prophets of Allah make rulings that are not according to their desires. So the reminder study that repeatedly because many continue to wish to bring such resourceful and influential people into the fold of Islam. But there are those who are influential and powerful who enter Islam in the Prophet's time, like for example, Abdurrahman Auf, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, Umar al-Khattab. It's all very rich and powerful people. In that fashion, people often advocate compromise on principles under the pretext of accommodation, diplomacy, tact, or the like. So he's talking about here people who are trying to win over the rich and famous, and in doing so, they actually would give up on compromise on some of the Islamic values and teachings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah is reminding people, do not be amazed. فَلَا تُعْجِبْكَ أَمْوَالُهُمْ وَلَا أَوْلَادُهُمْ, their wealth and their children. Many of these hypocrites were people of affluence, having many children and occupying positions of nobility and honor in their tribes. So that's the reality of these hypocrites. Rich, powerful, and have status. All this counts for nothing with Allah, so it should be with His Messenger and the community of believers. So reminding them, never ever be amazed, fascinated by the wealth and their children. It is repeated here for a different reason also. What is meant here is that no significance should be attached by the Muslim community on the wealth of the children of these hypocrites, because to admire this is to give such people a degree of mental honor or appreciation which they do not deserve. So we don't want them to be big-headed, right? And so we should not admire what they have. The only thing they deserve is to be ignored and looked upon with contempt. So this is well, not every scholar would agree with looking upon people with contempt, right? Some scholars actually encourage us to make du'as for these people as long as they live. But once they are dead, we can't make du'as for them anymore. Nevertheless, some converts find it difficult not to du'a for their parents who have passed on. We leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether Allah want to, because it is in the jurisdiction of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to decide whether to forgive them or not. Some believers might think how this is those hypocrites, they did not believe in Allah, and enjoyed so many bounties. This is always the case when people who are disobedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rebel against Allah, and they are so rich and powerful. So how come they are so rich and powerful? Allah give them lots of bounties. Why is that? So some people wonder why. They should not imagine that those bounties might cause happiness and comfort for them. So the fact that they see these bounties as a source of happiness, a source of a provision for Allah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah approving them what they do, it's not what it is. Allah is telling us here. Innama, surely that, yuridullahu, Allah wishes, present future tense, continuous here, liyu'adhibahum, so that He will punish them, biha, by the wealth and the children. Right? Why the wealth would cause them to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They might even get wealth from non-halal sources by cheating, by deceiving, by finding ways and means to trick people. So the innama yuridullahu liyu'adhibahum. So surely only that Allah, He wishes to punish them. Biha, by them, by His children. Also, if you don't bring up your children well, don't teach them good manners and such, they might come back and find faults with you and claim from you. Fil hayati dunya, in this world. So they will be punished in this world, right? So the things that they have, the wealth and everything, right, is a form of punishment on them in this world. Why is it a punishment? Because of their things, the wealth and children, they arrogantly denied Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and thus they are cut off from the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Such privileges were not a bounty given to them by Allah to enjoy. They were only a means of trial which would ensure their punishment. So that's what it is. Allah says, Innama yuridu, Allah wishes to punish them by them in this world. in this life of the world, right? In this worldly life. All right, so that's what it is. But on the contrary, those properties and children cause them affliction and punishment. Therefore, the hypocrites and infidels, because of absence of belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is the origin of the ease of hearts, cannot apply these bounties with a pleasure. So somehow, despite being rich and powerful, they have still got issues with themselves, with others, and finding unhappiness and uneasiness, right? Because of the fact that they do not believe in Allah subhanahu. Wealth and children may be a blessing that Allah grants to any one of His slaves when He guides them to be grateful for what they have been granted and to use it for good purposes. So yes, children, wealth is wealth. We use wealth for good purposes, right? Inshallah, Allah will guide us because we are grateful. Those who are grateful, Allah will give them more. And whatever they do, Allah's bounty is motivated by their desire to please Allah, and this gives them a feeling of security and religion. So the only way that your wealth will be of benefit to you is that you are grateful for it from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you continue using the wealth to seek the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this helps you to feel good, reassured. And so people use their sadaqah and everything to poor. These are the rich, which are the good ones, right? Who are blessed by the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But those who disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, and deny these blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in fact, uses this blessing to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they will be punished. Yeah, that's certain of the outcome. Whenever they donate something, they feel it is a saving for their life to come. These are the good ones. But they understand that donation means it's for the next world. And when a calamity befalls their children or their wealth, they accept it with resignation. So they are not going into states of grief and fears and all kinds of things. This gives them new reassurance and hope that Allah will replace their loss with something better. All right, so that's Muslims believe that when they give sadaqah, Allah will give them much more, not only in this world, but also in the next world. And it is mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah that they are giving a loan to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you give a loan to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which means Allah will repay you, that means you visit, if you go and see the poor people and give them handouts or packages of, food that they can cook. So they believe that Allah, Rasulullah said that you give one, you get 10, right? So that's rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Concerns about his wealth and children will soon give him a taste of hell, while his desire to protect what he has been given and to increase it gives him many a sleepless night. So there is a reality of people who are obsessed with their wealth, right? And worries about their wealth and children will actually cause them very difficult to be in a state of rest, and they will consider life like as if being in hell because of the great concern about their wealth and children. But his desire to protect what he has been given and to increase it gives him many a sleepless night. So he has been given by Allah and he wants to protect him and he wants to increase it. So he is so he got lots and he's so afraid that it might be taken away. So he wants to make sure it is kept with himself. And all these anxieties will cause him to have sleepless nights. Spends his money on what will hurt him and cause his soul to perish. He will be miserable when they shouldn't fall ill, and he will be miserable when they recover. Remember, Indians are the ones who suffer in different ways on account of their children. So first, miserable when they are ill. Of course, all parents are very, very sad when children fall ill, right? And they will take care of the children and give them the best that they can give to make the children feel better. But the reality is that when they recover, they start becoming rude. They have lost their sense of honoring parents and such. The hypocrites at the time of Rasulullah and those who are like them everywhere may have plenty of money and wealth and plenty of children, which people may admire, yet to them they are only a cause of suffering in one way or another. The suffering is their lot in this life. So in this life, they suffer for their children, they worry about their children. Some children might grow up to become rude and become nasty. So they have to suffer all this in this world. وَتَزْهَقَ أَنفُسُهُمْ, and the soul leaves وَهُمْ كَافِرُونَ, while they are disbelievers. What is that? Because of the hypocrisy which is perfectly known to Allah, they are certain to end up dying as disbelievers. This abyss is the worst outcome that any human being can experience, to be in hellfire. To be in a very bad state because of the sins that you commit. The statement وَتَزْهَقَ أَنفُسُهُمْ imparts a sense of restless, perturbed souls lacking all sense of security. So this word itself, although it's translated as pass away, but actually has a very stronger meaning to it, right? A sense of restlessness, perturbed souls lacking all sense of security. They try to escape, are lost, perished. This impression fits in well with that of suffering as a result of having wealth and children. It is then all worry and misery in this life as well as the life to come. No one can be envied for such appearances, which involves a very hard test indeed. The hypocrisy would not let them attain sincere faith till they die. Thus, after ruining their moral and spiritual lives in this world, they would live in a state of unbelief, which will ruin their lives in the hereafter in a far worse way. So because they are hypocrites, right, it's not going to be easy for them to have faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before they die. So thus their moral and spiritual lives are being ruined, right? They will be left in a state of unbelief, which will run their lives in the hereafter in a worse way. All right. وَإِذَا أُنزِلَتْ, and when was sent down, unzilat is passive plural, a passive maldi, fi'al maldi, plural also. Suratun, a surah, an aminu, that believe, billahi, in Allah. Wajahidu, jahada. Jahid is instruction to fight, to strive and strive. Ma'ar rasulihi, with his rasul. Ista'dhanaka from the word adhan. Adhan is excuse, right? Is seeking excuse, sought your permission, or sought your permission. The car is your ulut pauli, possessor of wealth. Minhum, among them. Waqalu, and they say, Zarna. Zarna is to leave us. Zarara is actually the leave word. Leavna is us. Nakun, we be ma'al qa'idin. Ma'al is with. Qa'id is people who are sitting around. Qa'idin, zul qa'idah, possessing of sitting around, because people need to sit around and not fight. A month before Zulhijjah, Zulqa'dah, then comes Zulhijjah, right? So it's good. It's sitting down, Qa'id, Zulqa'dah. وَقَالُوا ذَرْنَا نَكُمْ مَعَ الْقَائِدِينَ. And whether a chapter is revealed saying, believe in Allah and strive hard long with Rasulullah sallallahu, those having ampleness of means ask permission of you and say, leave us, that we may be with those who sit. وَإِذَا أُنزِلَتْ, and when was sent down. Suratun. So suratun was sent down, but because it's passive, unzilat, this is called naib fi'il, so it takes a rafa. So وَإِذَا أُنزِلَتْ suratun, an aminu billah, that believe in Allah. So the instruction was to believe in Allah. A surah came down with instruction to believe in Allah. Allah mentioned an occasion when a surah is revealed and that they believe in Allah. Belief is foremost because before other acts of amals are performed. So in order to be able to to pray, be able to fast in the month of Ramadan, to give zakat, to care for the poor and the orphans, right? You need to have belief in Allah. Once the belief in Allah is settled in your hearts, it's not going to be difficult to obey the various commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right, so that's it. وَإِذَا أُنزِلَتْ سُورَةٌ أَنْ آمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ. And when was sent down a surah that not that believe in Allah, they were instructed to believe in Allah. وَجَاهِدُوا, jahidu and strive ma'a rasulihi, with his rasul. The command to believe in Allah is followed by a command to strive with his rasuls, with his rasul. And here is rasulihi, that is referring to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Those who believe in Allah will be more than happy to fight alongside with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ista'dhanaka ulut tawli minhum, right? Sought permission, the possessor of wealth among them. When the surah or a passage of the Quran is revealed from on high, giving an explicit order to the believers to strive for Allah's cause, and those who have the means to give physical and financial sacrifices came forward. Did not show up in order to take their position in the front as their ability and gratitude to Allah would require. They came forward to make stupid excuses and to request exemptions that they may stay behind with women doing nothing to defend sanctity of home. So these are the hypocrites. They come forward, but actually they come forward to take position in front as their ability and gratitude to Allah would require. They come forward to make stupid excuses as a reason. They do not come forward because they want to give sadaqah, but they come forward to give excuses and to request exemptions that they can stay behind with the men and the women. We're doing nothing to defend sanctity of home. وَقَالُوا ذَرْنَا نَكُمْ مَعَ الْقَائِدِينَ. And they said, leave us and we be of those who sit around. The hypocritical attitude of preserving material self-interest at any cost often puts them in a cowardly, shameful, or dishonorable situation. But when they continue accepting shame and dishonor, soon they even lose their sense. So this is what it is happening, right, in the Arab world. Not to fight and to be left behind with the ladies, right, is a form of humiliation, right? So because of their obsession with the material wealth, and they are cowardly, they always have lots of fears. They are shameful, and they do things without sense of any shame or dishonorable situation. They are put in cowardly. That means they are, as it is in this example, they are very cowardly because they don't want to fight the Muslims. Shameful, right? Because they do things which are against Islam, which are shameful. And dishonorable situations, that means situations where there is honor. They do things that will dishonor them. But when they continue accepting shame and dishonor, soon they even lose their sense. So that's what it is. They just lose themselves, right? Because they are so used to doing things which would put them to shame. So it becomes like, doing it too often that you can't really feel anymore. You do not even feel shame in a situation where a sincere person would feel humiliated. among Arabs staying at home like women while men go out to fight was a very dishonorable and humiliating, shameful behavior. But the hypocrites had accepted that dishonor is their lifestyle. So they are willing to accept dishonor because they want to be hypocrites. Radu, they are satisfied from the word rida, right? Radu, wow, alif, they are satisfied. Be an in that. Yakunu, they be, wow, alif at the end, yeah, they be. Because this is a nasab state, mudari, because of the an there. Ma'al khawalif, from the khawalif from the word khilaf. Khilaf means to be, here is to be lag behind. Those who are lagging behind, those who remain behind. Ma'a is with al khawalif, those who remain behind. Wa tubi'a and is sealed, taba'a is to seal. Tubi'a is passive and is sealed ala qulubihim on their hearts. Fahum while they la yafqahun, not they understand. Radu bi ayyakunu ma'al khawalifi wa tubi'a ala qulubihim fahum la yafqahun. All right, they are pleased by that they were among those who are left behind. Allah chastises and admonishes those who stayed away from jihad and refrained from performing it, even though they had the supplies, means, and ability to join in. It is clear that he who has no faith in Allah will certainly refuse to go to fight in his way because he does not believe in the excellent rewards that Allah has promised for the godly strivers. So that's the reality. So faith is very important to allow you to want to fight in the path of Allah, because he does not believe in the rewards. Therefore, a hypocrite considers that participation in such a war is a fall into danger and is a kind of self-murder. So they consider it, they feel that they believe that it's going to be very dangerous, they're going to lose, especially in this last expedition to Tabuk, where they were supposed to fight with the Roman army, which they feel is quite impossible. Do not feel ashamed, is that they are pleased with their state. So that's what Allah said, Radu bi an yakunu. They are in a state of happiness, they are in a state of being very pleased with themselves, right? Because and being sitting with those who sat behind. Watubi'a ala qulubihim, and a seal is on their hearts. And it's said, right, that they disbelief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now their hearts are covered up. It means they cannot accept anymore. They're staying away from jihad and from accompanying the Prophet Prophet's cause causes their hearts to be sealed. Right? That means they cannot accept truth, they cannot accept anything because they are already sealed. Fahum la yafqahun, while then they understand. So, in the previous verse, we have it was stated that those who inform, right, are one of those people who were with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Fahum la yafqahun. Then they understand. If they understand, they would not want to be be left behind, because they know that it's great reward in being martyred. They wouldn't be afraid of being killed, because being martyred means you'll be greatly rewarded. They don't understand because they deliberately and intentionally chose the shameful way of staying at home with women when they were required to go forth for jihad, though they were healthy, physically fit, and well-to-do and profess Islam. All right, so although they have believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they don't want, right? But they don't want to go out and fight, right? Because they are proper. Therefore, according to the divine law of nature, a seal was set upon their hearts and they were bereft of those noble feelings, which made one feel ashamed of adopting such a disgraceful conduct. Right? If they understood, they would not. But because of this, Allah has caused a seal to be in their hearts. That means they were not able to feel sense of good, right? And they will not be ashamed of uh, having a second. They will not be ashamed. Sorry. Therefore, according to the divine law of nature, a seal was set upon their hearts, and they will be bereft of those noble feelings which made one feel ashamed of adopting such a disgraceful conduct. So, because they had a seal in their hearts, they don't feel any sense of shame, right? Because because they were left behind. They neither understand what benefits them so that they perform it, nor what hurts them so that they avoid it. So they are not a people of understanding. Had they been able to understand it, they would have realized that it is when one strives for Allah's cause that one feels strong, leading a life of dignity and honor, and when one stays behind, one lives in weakness and abject humiliation. This is the reality. Those who move forward, those who spend their money and also their lives, to fight in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are strong people and they have a life of dignity and honor. But those who stay behind, right, shows that they are weak and abject to humiliation. Lives in weakness and abject humiliation. So they live in horrible conditions of humiliation. Humiliation imposes its tax on human beings like dignity does. So there is a, a tax. That means it affects people. However, the tax imposed by humiliation is often heavier by far. So to be humiliated is even worse. And weak people may think that the tax of dignity is too heavy. It's much too heavy, and try to evade it by accepting an abject position of humiliation. So because they are weak, they are afraid of challenges. They are afraid of being brought to, being. They feel that that the responsibility is too heavy, and so because they are weak, we have to know that hypocrites are other weak people and try to avoid it, evade it by accepting an abject position of humiliation. So they don't want to take up this responsibility of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because they are weak people. And however, they accept the position of humiliation. They live in fear and anxiety, thinking each loud cry to a call to attack them. So that's the reality of these people, the people of the hypocrites who doesn't want to fight in the path of Allah and seem to be happy, pleased that they are not fighting in the path of Allah. They remain in constant fear for their lives. They're always afraid of death. That's why they're not going out there. They're afraid of losing their money. That's why they become stingy. Right? Or because the faith is at the end of the day is a faith of Allah in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why in the previous verse, Allah they are instructed, the surah instructs them to have faith in Allah. Because with faith in Allah, they would go for jihad. So it's important to have faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Such people pay a far heavier tax than that which have been required by a dignified life. Tax they pay for their humble life is taken from their honor. Not humble life, humiliated living. And humiliated. People tend to confuse humble and humiliation. Humble is a positive term, but being humiliated is not a positive term. For their humiliating living, humiliation is taken from their honor, prestige, social standing, reputation, security, and often also from their lives, although they may not readily perceive this. The tax they pay for humiliation. It's about being humiliated, right? In not wanting to obey, to go out there to fight with the people. It's taken from their honor, so they lose honor, they lose prestige, they lose their social standing, their reputation. So it clearly shows that they were hypocrite, security, and often also from their lives, although they may not readily perceive this. And here, this is the reality. The people, the hypocrites who didn't want to fight. This is towards the end of the life of Rasulullah Tabuk. And it shows because Tabuk was a very difficult fight, as mentioned before in the surah, right? Because they are going far up north, right, to confront the Romans, and they are all those who are not strong enough to believe that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala will help. That no matter what it is, Allah is there to help, and Allah, none can overcome Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. But their fear of the heat, their fear of losing money, their fear of traveling so far, fear of facing the Romans, right, caused them not to go for fight. And that is the humiliation in them. Lakinir Rasulu, but the messenger one. Referring to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but the messenger, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Waladina amanu, and those they believed, ma'ahu, with him, jahadu, they strove, past tense, right, from the word jihad, jahadu, wa alif, there, this is the fa'ala structure, wa alif is they, past tense, madi, bi amwalihim, with their wealth, wa anfusihim, and themselves. Lakinir rasulu walladhina amanu ma'ahu jahadu bi amwalihim wa anfusihim wa ulaika, and those, lahum, for them, lahumul khairat, the good things. Plural here, khairat, for them is the khairat, the good things. Wa ulaika, and those whom they, muflihun, the successful. Wa ulaika lahumul khairat wa ulaika humul muflihun. But the messenger and those who believe with him strive hard with their property and their persons, and this it is who shall have the good things, and these it is who shall be successful. لكن الرسول والذين آمنوا معه جاهدوا بأموالهم وأنفسهم. But Rasulullah SAW and those who believe, so Allah gives the different a look at the opposite side of those who are opposed, different from the hypocrites, Rasulullah SAW and those who believe. So this is the ummah, those who followed Rasulullah SAW with him, ma'ahu, they fought, jahadu bi amwalihim, with their wealth, wa anfusihim, and themselves. So these persons are referred to whose manner is just opposite to that of the hypocrites. Those persons, they consist in the Prophet ﷺ and the believers who are ever ready to participate in the holy struggle with all their abilities. Ma'ahu is important because anyone can claim to have iman, but now there is an additional condition that you have to be with the Prophet ﷺ, and that will be a proof of iman. Okay. So they are with him, those who believe with him, they are with him. Wa ulaika lahumul khairat, they go to fight. They go to fight, they fight in with their wealth, that means they spend their money, and also with themselves. Wa ulaika lahumul khairat, and those, for them is the good, lots of good. So Allah say lahum, especially for them. So Allah gives them special lots of great good things. What are the good things? It's not described, it's not explained. So and it's a lot of the good things. Good things. Allah Subhanahu wa Taala continues to mention proper Islamic behavior after each identification of hypocritical traits for two reasons. So we had a series of characteristics of the hypocrites, right? And then he talks about those who believe. So what are the two reasons here? First, to encourage those among the hypocrites who have come some goodness in their hearts to reform and adopt the Islamic behavior. So Allah is all right saying all these things, right? So that to make the hypocrites think those who have some sense of goodness in their hearts to change. And secondly, to appreciate the sincerity of the true believers and give them the good news of the life awaiting them in the hereafter. So encouragement for the believers, appreciation of what they have been doing. So Allah is telling them that they will get lots of good, those who are with Rasulullah SAW. Such good things are of both the type enjoyed here in this life and the one attained in the life to come. So what is this khairat? Khairat refers to all the good things that we get in this world, the peace of mind, the ability to do ibadah. Allah is of the mercies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we are able to do our salat, we're able to read the Quran, maybe have some zikir, and maybe sometimes do tahajjud, and all these things are great, great good from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, in the next world, they'll get lots more good. In this world, they enjoy dignity, honor, and a position which guarantees that people respect what they say. Hereafter, they receive the best and fullest reward as they attain Allah's acceptance. Wa'ulaika, those whom they, so emphasizes, and those, they are the ones, muflihun, right, those who are successful. The word successful here used is falah. Falah are those people who work hard as a farmer. A farmer who doesn't work hard on his farm will not be successful. Right? For the farmer to have a good harvest, he must put in effort on his farm. So the word muflihun is used here. It shows that the believers who work hard for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, putting in lots of effort, right, to seek the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and having great trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are those who are successful. Attaining of this great good is the ultimate success. They have worked hard to achieve this success. Allah will give them lots of good rewards, and they will attain the happiness of both this world and the hereafter. That is the reality of life. In this world, they get happiness by overcoming the enemies and strengthening the foundation of their own society towards ever increasing progression. So they're always progressive, right? They work hard to overcome the enemies, all kinds of enemies there are, right? That prevents us from remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and having strength and having faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And hereafter, they will be rewarded by being blessed with the divine bounties. أعد الله لهم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها. أعد is fi'il madi, prepared. Who prepared? Allah is the one who prepared. Lahum, brought forward, especially for them. Lahum, jannat, gardens, plural. They are prepared. Jannat is prepared for them. The jannat must be in its nasab state. You see, tanwin, we know plural is jannatun or jannatin. There is no jannatan. So it's either, so the nasab can be, this the jannatin can be nasab or jar, but it is nasab because it is a thing that is being prepared. And there's no huruf jar there. Tajri, flowing, min tahatihal, from below them here referring to the gardens. Alhan, anharu is in its rafa state, so this thing that is flowing. So anhar is considered as a single female entity. That's why you have a ta here referring to the anhar, rivers. Tajri min tahtiha al-anharu khalidina fiha. Khalid is forever, abiders forever. In them refers to the Jannah. A'addallahu lahum jannatin tajri min tahtihal anharu khalidina fiha. Dhalika, that fawzul azim, the supreme achievement. Fawz is success, azim is supreme. Dhalika al-fawzul azim. Allah has prepared for them gardens beneath which rivers flow to abide in them, but that is the great achievement. So Allah says, A'addallahu, Allah has prepared for them, emphasizing for them, gardens, jannat, tajri, flowing from below them, rivers. Allah has prepared gardens for them is much more beautiful than saying they will have gardens, right? Allah has prepared for them. They have obeyed Allah. They have been true to Allah. Then Allah prepared for them. It's something special because Allah prepared for you, and it's not like they were rewarded. It's a different thing altogether. So Allah shows Him, being happy, being pleased with His slaves. Allah made something special for them. Rivers flowing below the gardens give a sense of tranquility and beauty. It's quite hard to imagine, but rivers flowing below the gardens. Some say it's like, you know, on a mountain and you got waterfalls flowing down because the rivers are like waterfalls. Khalidina fiha, that's important, they will be there forever. It is for eternity. ذَلِكَ الْفَوْزُ الْعَظِيمُ, that is the supreme success. Right? The supreme success. I'll describe it as supreme success. This is a supreme success. Our life is for the next world. What more success than being blessed with Jannah? Right? To be blessed with special, this Jannah that is prepared for us is, of course, the final success that we are trying to achieve in this world. All right, so Erica. ولا تعجبك أموالهم وأولادهم إنما يريد الله أن يعذبهم بها في الدنيا وتزهق أنفسهم وهم كافرون وإذا أنزلت سورة أن آمنوا بالله وجاهدوا مع رسوله استأذنك أولو الطول منهم وقالوا ذرنا نكن مع القاعدين رضوا بأن يكونوا مع الخوالف وطبع على قلوبهم فهم لا يفقهون لكن الرسول والذين آمنوا معه جاهدوا بأموالهم وأنفسهم أولئك لهم خيرات وأولئك هم المفلحون أعد الله لهم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها ذلك الفوز العظيم. We go on to the next set. وجاء and came المعذرون, those who make excuses from the word although is to have an excuse. معذرون, and those who are given excuses. وجاء, those who make excuses. وجاء المعذرون من الأعراب, of the Bedouins, means of or from. Al-A'rab are the Bedouins. ليؤذنا, so he gave excuse from the word adhan. Adhan is udun. Adhan is so he gave permission. Idhin, not excuse, permission. So he gave permission. Idhin adhan. For them. Lahum, for them. Waqa'ada, from the word qu'ud, we had this word before, and said, who said, alladhina kadhabu Allah, those they lied Allah. This is not kadhabu. Kadhabu is they lied to Allah. Allah is the one who is being lied to, and his Rasul, wa rasulahu, and his messengers. Sorry again, and his messenger. Messenger. وجاء المؤذرون من الأعراب ليؤذن لهم وقعد الذين كذبوا الله ورسوله, so they lied to Allah and Rasul. سيصيب الذين, sa is will, yusibu from what sababa, to fall, to rain, like that, you know. Sayusibu, and this is yusibu is fi'il mudari rafa state. Alladhina, those kafaru, they disbelieved, minhum, among them, adhabun alim, a terrible punishment. And the defaulters from among the dwellers of the desert came, that permission may be given to them, and they sat at home, who lied to Allah and his messenger. A painful chastisement shall afflict those of them who disbelieve. So Allah says, "Waja al mu'andiruna," and came those who have excuses. Min al Arabi, of the Bedouins, liyu'dhana lahum, so that he will give them permission, will give permission for them. What permission are they seeking? Yeah, these are people with excuses. The subject matter so far was the behavior of the urban hypocrites. So previously, we're talking about the rich and powerful hypocrites of Medina. Now Allah turns our attention to the Arabs, the Bedouins. So this verse talks particularly about the residents of rural settlements, the desert around Medina. So these are the Bedouins. Most of the traits are common among all hypocrites, but the Bedouins are being addressed directly so that they take notice in case some of them feel that the previous address was not about them. So Allah specify here that they are people all from the among the people of the desert tribes. Here it would be the Bedouins, and they came with excuses. They have their excuses, and they hope that Allah will provide, will give them permission not to go to fight. Allah describes that the condition the Bedouins who live around Al-Madinah, who asked for permission to remain behind from jihad, when they came to Rasulullah to explain to him their weakness and inability to join the fighting. And Dahak said that, Ibn Abbas said that they were those who had valid excuses. The first group, they had valid excuses. All right. فَقَعَدَ الَّذِينَ كَذَبُوا اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ, and said those they denied, they lied to Rasul, to Allah and His Rasul. So those who lied to Allah and His Rasul, they just said and they don't want to ask for permission. A lot of Bedouins that come to Islam, but they didn't take it seriously. There is a thought of Islam as something social or political. So they don't see it as a religion to embrace in their lives. So they will go to the Prophet ﷺ with creative excuses, some of them actually legitimate excuses. سَيُصِيبُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ, will befall those they disbelieve among them a terrible punishment. The verse mentions two types of hypocrites, the one who came with artificial excuses and the other who completely ignored the call and just stayed home. Now, these are different of opinions again among the scholars. As we saw, there was mentioned that the first group, right, those who had excuses, right, they were given permission. But the second group who lied to Allah, they didn't ask for permission and they are set on. But here they are saying that the others who completely ignored the call and just stayed home. So there are two hypocrites. One who came with artificial excuses. So this particular scholar, Mufassirin, is saying that the first group, they had their excuses were not true, right? Whereas Ibn Abbas says that their excuses were true excuses. 3 points have been re-emphasized here. A verbal confession of faith is a lie if it does not have a sincere mental conviction behind it, and such a person remains a disbeliever in Allah. We are looking at the book at the verses here. It talks about people, right, who claim to believe, but they do not have the conviction behind them, and they are disbelievers. And Allah is concerned. Allah calls them alladhina kafar. But when Allah uses the word alladhina kafaru, Allah, there is hope that you would want to accept the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not responding to a call of a messenger without a legitimate reason is a proof of that lie. So here Rasulullah is calling them to jihad and they don't want to go for jihad. So it shows that they are lying in their belief in Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And shirking from striving for the establishment of Allah's deen without a legitimate reason, whether by ignoring the call or through an invalid excuse, takes the person to the fire of hell. All right, everyone is supposed to fight when they are called to fight, right? Unless they have reasons for not for not being able to fight. But here you have people who would not want to go to fight. So they are the liars because they're not responding to the call of Rasulullah. The phrase, those of them who disbelieved, is used to provide exception for true believers and who stayed behind for a legitimate reason. So Allah uses this alladina kafaru, right, to show that they are real disbelievers, hypocrites, but actually disbelieving. So it is not, it is being stated here, so that the believers are not, are given exemption, sorry, provide exemption, not exception, or exception from a legitimate reason. The hypocritical profession of Islam had been called the way of unbelief because that profession of faith, this hypocritical profession, is to profess Islam, declaration of Islam. Declaration of faith which lacks practical proof, surrender, sincerity, and obedience, in effect, unbelief. So when you are not able to act on your belief, then and not able to surrender to the laws of Allah, not to have sincerity and obedience, then that is disbelief. As such, persons prefer their own interests and worldly desires to Allah and His way. They shall be dealt with by Allah as disbelievers and rebels, even if they could not be legally treated as such in this world, or were considered Muslims due to their profession of faith. And so we're talking about these people who testify to the Shahada, and yet they are not true to the Shahada. But we cannot identify them, we can't see them. They do all kinds of evil deeds, right? But we still have to consider them believers as we don't know their reality. Right, it's saying that even if in this world they might not be punished because nobody knows their reality, but in the next world they will be punished. This is because the life of the world, the Islamic law treats as unbelievers only such hypocrites as are guilty of open disbelief, rebellion, treachery, or infidelity. So in this life of the world, we cannot punish them if they do things secretly. So the punishment can only be meted out on people who open disbelief, openly rebel, openly is treacherous, or openly is infidels. It is why there are many cases of hypocrisy that do not come under kufur in the Islamic Sharia. Right. So we just have to let go because we don't really know their realities and we're not here to search out for the realities of people. However, it does not mean that if one escaped the penalty according to the Islamic code, one will escape punishment according to the divine judgment. So that is the fairness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These people who goes against law of Islam, maybe secretly, Allah will punish them accordingly. Police struggle is something concerned to Islamic government, and it is not a personal affair. And jihad called to fight, especially by the time of Rasulullah SAW, it is an important ibadah. It is why both attending in it and leaving it should be done with the permission of the leader of the Muslims. So that it was the reality. They cannot just make their own decisions. They must, if they want to attend, also they must ask permission. They want not to attend, also they must ask permission. By the way, those who are heedless to the obligatory rule of holy struggle and try to escape from it are liars in their belief. Right? So we do, as we saw that, also considered as liars in their belief because they don't want to right? They don't want to do the rules, whatever the rule of holy struggle, right? Whatever is wajib on them, and try to escape it, and they are liars. They must know that the seekers of exemption who try to run away from performing their duty will be punished, and a painful chastisement is waiting for them. So those who pretend to be sick, pretend to be weak and everything, right? Eventually they will be punished. Right. Laisa ala du'afai. Laisa is not. Ala is on. Du'afa from the word da'if, plural. On the weak. Wala ala marda, and not on the sick. Wala ala ladhina la yajiduna, and not on those they find. La yajiduna, not they find. Ma yunfiquna, what they spend. Ma is what? Yunfiquna, they spend. Harajun, a sin. Laisa ala du'afai wala ala al-marda wala ala alladhina la yajidu ma yunfiquna haraja. Idza nasahu, when they are sincere, lillahi, for Allah, wa rasulihi, and his rasul, ma alal muhsinina, not on the excellent ones. Allah is on muhsinin, the excellent ones, min sabil, anyway. Wallahu, and Allah ghafurur rahim, is forgiving, is merciful. There shall be no crime in the weak, nor in the sick, nor in those who do not find what they should spend to stay behind. So long as they are sincere to Allah and His Messenger, there is no way against the doers of good. And laisa ala du'afai wa la ala al-marda. So now Allah gives two groups of people that do not have to go for the war, the battles. Du'afa are those who are weak, and marda, those who are sick. Allah mentions it, the valid excuses that permit one to stay away from fighting. He first mentions the excuses that remain with the person, the weakness in the body that disallows one from jihad, such as blindness, limping, and so on. He then mentions the excuses that are not permanent, such as an illness that would prevent one from fighting in the course of war. A blind old man came to Rasulullah and said, I have nobody to take my hand and to lead me to the battlefield. I'm old and feeble. Is my excuse accepted? Rasulullah smiled, kept silence for a while until this verse was revealed. So of course, in such a situation, Rasulullah would allow him to be excused. وَلَا عَلَى الَّذِينَ لَا يَجِدُونَ مَا يُنْفِقُونَ حَرَجٌ. وَلَا عَلَى الَّذِينَ لَا يَجِدُونَ, not on those who could not find what to spend, right? A sin, a blame. Also properties that prevents preparing for Hajj. Poverty, so those who are poor, they couldn't find ways and means, because you need to be equipped in the battle. You need to have horses, you need to have armory. If you can't buy all these things, you have no much money to buy. And there are rich ones who actually sponsor, but not everybody gets sponsored. So they have no blame on them. Haraj is a blame. Ida nasahu, nasiha is sincere. When they are sincere to Allah and His Rasul. There's something not only known to Allah and the person himself, sincerity. No one knows who is sincere. But it also shows itself in the attitude of the person through his longing for the success of the mission, feeling deprived and sad for not being able to participate, and trying to compensate by doing whatever little he can do, even if it's only the passionate du'as to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the success of those who are actively engaged. Right, so whatever we do for the sake of the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if it doesn't go out to fight, right, we have to find ways and means to strengthen the slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are many instances of people are not allowed to fight because they really care, they really want to fight, but they cannot fight because of the lack of means. In fact, those who are hindered from serving the deen due to a legitimate reason, but their heart remains longing for it, and they feel more strongly for the missed opportunity than the greatest loss a person can face in life. So it means a lot to them. A report attributed to Ibn Abbas mentions that Rasulullah and some other his companions to get ready for a campaign. A group of his companions, among them was Abdullah bin Mughafil al-Mazini, went to him and said, Ya Rasulullah, could you give us some mounts, for we have none? Rasulullah said to them, I have no means of transporting you. They were weeping as they went away because it hurt them not to be able to join the campaign, and they would not find any means of transport nor cover their own expenses. So this is an incident to explain, right, the state of the people who are not allowed to fight, those true Muslims who are not allowed to fight. And so Allah states that exemption in His revelation. Ma ala muhsinina min sabil, not on the excellent ones any way of finding faults with Him, because they are good people who are sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In order to state the reason of this subject, it says that such people are some benevolent men, and there is no way for blaming, scorning, punishing, and taking to task the good doers. Wallahu ghafurur rahim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is forgiving and merciful, and grants them full reward as if they have performed their service. Thus, the Prophet ﷺ addressed his companions on their way back from Tabuk, saying, "These are people in Medina who have been with you all along your journey." And the companions wondered while they have been in Medina. So Allah says that Rasulullah actually identified a group of people who are actually with them on their journey. And they say, but they are in Medina. He explained, yes, well, they have been in Medina because they were forced to stay behind by legitimate reasons, but they really did not want to stay. All right. So that is the story. اللهم ارحمنا بالقرآن واجعله لنا إماما ونورا وهدى ورحمة. اللهم ذكرنا منه ما نسينا وعلمنا منه ما جهلنا وارزقنا تلاوته آناء الليل وأطراف النهار واجعله لنا حجة يا رب العالمين. اللهم استودعك ما علمتني فردده إلي وقت حاجتي إليه فلا تنسينيه يا رب العالمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. ربنا انفعنا بما علمتنا ربي علمنا الذي ينفعنا ربي فقهنا وفقه أهلنا وقرابات لنا في ديننا مع أهل الخطر أنثى والذكر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. العصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. الحمد لله الحمد لله الحمد لله.